welcome to Time Writing Tips. First of all, my name is Miss Dorman, and I'm happy to have you all here. So, first, let's start with purpose. So I'm going to erase this so I have some room to write an outline. What do you think the purpose of having time writing is? And the reason I'm asking that is I've had students say, well, why can't I just write as long as I need to? So why do you think we have to go through this torture of writing under time constraint?
Well, if you had unlimited time, that wouldn't really be able to show your skills as a writer.
In what way you write? In what way?
In what way?
So what kind of skills does having to write under time pressure demonstrate?
Ability to think quickly, put your thoughts together quickly.
Perfect, Jordan. So it's the ability to think. To be able to think and to organize and make judgments under pressure. Because writing helps us think, as well as teaching us to think. So it helps develop that ability to do critical thinking, even when you're under stress. Alright, so that's the purpose. So for a writing test, piece of time writing, I'm going to simplify this because of our time constraint. So there are many types of time writing, but I'm just going to talk about academic essays. What would be a situation in which you'd have an academic essay?
For an exam.
For an exam. All right, so for an exam in a class, can you study for an academic essay or a timed piece of writing?
You can't really study, you can prep.
Okay, great answer. All right, so you can prepare. Now you can study if you know, if you're having a test on content. For example, when I was a freshman in college, I took an essay exam on the history of world history, and it covered 4 different revolutions. So I did have content I could study, but in honesty, it was so much that there was nobody to really study for. The only way to study for a content test like that would be to show up for class regularly. So that's one tip. It's just come to class regularly and listen, take notes, ask questions. Now, for the test that you're taking in a composition class, the main purpose of it is to demonstrate your writing skills, as you were saying before. How well can you communicate clearly and logically in an organized fashion under time constraint? You can't study for that, right? So how do you prep for it? What are some things you can do to prepare?
Continue writing.
There you go. I'm going to give you a gold star. And I actually didn't give him the answers ahead of time. Right. So, the best way to study for a time writing test is to write regularly. Writing is a skill. It's not a talent. It's a skill. And any skill, you need to practice in order to develop it. You don't just practice it over and over again. You practice with the idea of improving. So if you're doing your writing assignments in class, and you're taking them seriously and you're revising, okay, so revision is the key to good writing, then you're learning how to write well. And the more that you do that, and the more that you can identify what your mistakes are and where you need to improve, then the more you will improve. Okay? So that's how you practice. That's how you prepare for doing time writing. The better you can do writing without pressure, the better you'll do under pressure. It's only logical, right? Okay, so just come to class regularly, do your assignments, write and write and write, and read. Read good writing, because that also will help you understand what good writing is. So those are the things that you would need to do to prepare. Also know how to do academic writing, which is its own animal. It's different from just any other type of writing. So make sure that you know the structure of an academic essay, what an essay is, and that it has a thesis, and it has multiple paragraphs. and each paragraph has a topic sentence and it has supported, those kinds of things. All right, so we know the purpose, we know how to prepare for it. The night before your test, and let's say you have a morning class, again, just for simplicity, we're going to say it in the daytime. What should you do the night before if you're not going to study?
Right.
In what way?
Right.
I wouldn't suggest you write that. It's a good thought. I'd write ahead of time. Let's say that you normally get 4 hours of sleep. What's a good thing to do?
Make sure you get your sleep.
Get a lot of sleep. Okay, so even if you normally get 4 hours, get some good sleep, at least 6 hours. Why?
So you're mentally prepared.
So your brain's awake, right? You're mentally alert. All right, so you need to have rested. Your brain is functioning well. Then in the morning you get up, and if you never eat breakfast, okay? Because you need the energy. If I gave you a multiple choice question, protein or carbohydrates, which one should you start with? Very first bite of breakfast should be which one?
Alright, carbohydrates.
Why?
Because protein might slow you down.
Okay, good thought, but it's actually protein. And it doesn't mean that you should only eat protein, but your very first bite should be of protein, okay? Because protein releases a hormone which keeps your brain alert, and it also will give you sustaining energy. And that doesn't mean you have to eat a steak. You can just have a couple sips of milk, a handful of nuts, something like that, just to secrete that hormone to make you mentally alert. And then have carbohydrates as well, especially fruit. Fruit would be very good because the carbohydrates make you feel good and they give you energy, but it's going to be really quick energy. If you have too many carbohydrates, you're going to feel so relaxed, you're going to go to sleep. So that's what makes you sluggish, is if you have too many carbohydrates. So eat well, start with protein. Eat good breakfast. Make sure you have all materials you need. For example, my students are going to take an exam tomorrow. You need to have a blue book. And if they don't have the blue book, they can't take the exam. So make sure you have everything organized, you're ready to go, and plan to leave early so that when you get to class, you can relax for a few minutes before you start, so you're not all flustered. Okay? Then do positive self-talk. I don't know about you all, but I know for myself that there have been many times when I was going to take a test and I went, I'm going to fail. I don't feel like I'm ready. Have you ever felt like that? Okay. When we do that, if I keep saying to myself, I'm not going to pass this, what's going to happen? I'm going to believe it, I'm not going to pass. I'm going to stress myself out at any rate. So do positive self-talk. I've done everything I can to prepare. I do know how to write. I know how to write an essay. I'm going to be fine. Okay. So just calm yourself down with positive self-talk and believe, convince yourself you're going to be fine, and you will. Very few people have ever died from taking a test. Okay? All right. Now, when the test begins, there are 3 phases to it. Erase this part. Pre-writing phase, the drafting phase, and proofreading phase. Now, you already know what proofreading is, so what is proofreading?
You read your work.
Reading your work for what purpose?
Would you say grammatical errors?
Okay, so looking for any errors that you've made, and when you're doing writing like this, your brain does funny things, so you may leave out a word while you're writing. So go back and look to see if you've left anything out, and that's where doing double-skipping lines comes in handy, because you have writing here and writing here in the middle of the blank space. So if you skip the word, you can just write it up here. Okay, if you've left out a letter, you can just correct. So make sure you leave yourself a little time to do that. Correcting never hurts you, it only helps. What do you think you should do during the pre-writing phase? Now this is going to be more actually than just brainstorming. And actually, I just asked you a question, I'm going to ask you another question first, because I got ahead of myself. So let's say that I'm giving you an exam. And so I hand out the exams to you and you haven't seen this yet, I put them upside down and hand your paper, and then I say, okay, now turn over your paper, you have 60 minutes. So the very first thing you need to do,
You have to read the question.
okay, you have to read the question. Even before that, read the directions,
Read the directions.
and then read the prompts, right?
Yeah.
So if you're going to read the prompts, what do you think? I'm going to steal it from you again. You don't have, you're so good you don't have to take the exam. Right. So why do you need to read the prompts?
You have to understand what you're writing about.
Perfect. So you need to understand first, what type of writing are the prompts asking you to do? Is this an illustrative essay? Is this a cause and effect essay? Is it a comparison contrast essay? So look for clue words. For example, if you have a prompt that says, give the reasons why there are many people who don't vote, that's a cause and effect essay, right? If it says, think about a time when you learned from a mistake, tell about a time you learned from a mistake, that would be a narrative. So look for clue words that tell you what type of writing. I have given a prompt that says, many people download music illegally. Write an essay explaining how this affects the artist, the music industry, and the consumer. So there are 3 parts to that. And sometimes people have only written about one. So you have to make sure you do the entire prompt to address the whole thing. Also, I gave a test recently where I asked a question about how life would be different in the United States if using a computer was illegal, and I had a couple people who just wrote about computers. Computers are good. There are lots of reasons to use computers. That's not what the prompt was about. So you have to make sure that you know what the prompt is asking you to do, because no matter how brilliant your writing is, if you're not writing about the prompt, you're going to get a very low grade. Okay, so the first thing to do, read the directions, read the prompts. And don't assume the shortest is the best. Choose the one that's best for you. Sometimes the longer ones give you some hints of what you need to put in your paper. So read them all. So you've read the prompts, now what do you need to do?
Start writing.
Immediately?
If it's a time test, you don't really have time to.
Okay, so you do have to budget your time,
Yeah.
but before we get into budgeting time, what else would you need to do? Remember, you have to, even though this is timed writing, one of the reasons that you're doing it is to show you can be organized. So, how do you organize?
Outline.
Okay, so you need to do a little bit of pre-writing of some kind, like brainstorming or something, to come up with ideas and to come up with supporting details. Do a really quick scratch outline. So, a scratch outline could look like this. Don't go into a lot of detail because, as you say, you don't have a lot of time. So maybe whatever your thesis is, you can do a fragment there because you know what it is. And then topic sentence, detail, 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 topic sentence, detail, 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 topic sentence, detail, detail, detail. Those can just be words because you can understand your own thoughts. The reason you need to do this is so you outline, you have a plan, you know where you're going. Also, in the middle of the test, when you're under time stress, often the brain goes blank, and then you can go back to your outline and say, yeah, I was going to say that. So make sure you do that for yourself. Then you write, and then you proofread. So, if you have 60 minutes, let's say that's your total time, so 60 minutes. How much time do you think you should spend for the pre-writing phase?
More than 5 minutes.
I'd probably spend about 10. So you could, because you do need to read those prompts carefully. And then you need to come up with your plan. So you could give yourself 10. So then how much time would you proofread at the end?
About 10 minutes.
5 to 10 minutes. So then that gives you at least 40 minutes to write. And if you do 5 minutes for proofreading, you have 45 minutes to write. So the rest of the time is spent writing that draft. And you only get this time to one shot. Don't try to revise, because you don't have time for it. That's why I'm saying spend a little time with the pre-writing phase to prepare and organize so you can write a really good draft. Because you only have that one shot to write it well. And it needs to be organized. And you need to have specific details. So if you spend 10, 15 minutes preparing, then you know what you're going to write. And you can just write it, go back and correct it. Okay? Does that make sense? Questions? 'Cause I know I just zipped through that really quick. No questions? Okay. And I was going to give you some prompts to practice with, but we have a little technical difficulty going on. So we only have about 5 minutes, but I want you just to think. I'm going to give you a question, okay? And see if you can come up with some ideas in terms of a thesis. The idea. I'm just going to take one off the computer that I had brought up. Waste time trying to make one up. Okay. Actually, I'm going to go with this one that I just gave in my class. And I know it's hard because you can't read it, but I'm going to read it very, very slowly. Discuss a few ways life would be different in the United States if a bill was made using computers of any kind illegal. Be sure to use specific examples to illustrate your points. So think about that. And maybe I'm going to be quiet for a minute. So just think what ideas you have. Ideally, you have a lot longer, but first, what kind of an essay is that going to be? If it says, discuss this and make sure that you give examples. What kind of writing? I'm going to give you multiple choice. Cause and effect, comparison, contrast, illustrative or expository, argumentative, narrative. So what kind of writing do you need to do? If you need to be putting examples. What is it?
What's the prompt question?
The prompt question?
Yes.
The prompt question is discuss how life in the United States would change if there was a law forbidding the use of computers.
That would be cause and effect.
But could you do it as a cause and effect?
Yes.
I think you could. I was kind of aiming for illustrative because of the examples.
Yeah.
Which is a definition of illustrated writing, but you could write as cause and effect. If this happens, then that would happen.
Yeah.
Okay, so either one of those, as long as you have good support. So I'm not going to put you on the spot and have you come up with a thesis, but that would be what you need to focus on in your pre-writing. Just come up with what would your thesis be? How would life be different? Would it change at all? Would it be better? Would it be worse? Whatever. And then come up with some ideas for your support and organize your paragraphs before you start writing. Yes.
Can you briefly summarize and list the steps again for the writing time test from the day before to review on the day of?
Yeah, I can put it up here, so I have on the computer that we can get them up, but I'm going to do this very, very briefly. Right before sleep. Getting up. Eat breakfast. Start with protein. Carbs help, but do the second, okay? That doesn't mean you have to eat an egg first and then eat a piece of toast. Just have your first bite be protein. Also, gather your materials. You might even put that the night before. If I would do it because I'm just a worrywart, I would gather them all the night before and have them ready to go. But just make sure that you have everything you need. Plan to be early rather than on time. So you can relax. And positive thinking. Okay, during the test. Read the directions and the prompts carefully. Determine what the prompts are asking you to do and what kind of writing it is. Budget your time. So you have free writing, that, plus ideas, plus thesis and support. And write a scratch outline. Okay? Then you're going to draft, you're going to spend the bulk of the time on the writing and do your very, very best on it, and then proofread at the end. So save some time for proofreading. So how much time did we save for pre-writing? Okay, so about 10 minutes. And how much time for proofreading?
No more than 10.
About no more than 10. So I'm going to say 5. Okay. And so if you have an hour, then that leaves you with 45 minutes to write the essay. So you can actually take your time and write it well. Does that make sense? Any other questions? Okay, thank you all very much for coming.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.